A little over 20 years ago, I moved to a small town in West Virginia, just outside of Charleston, to work with a local church. There's a lady there, elderly lady, who was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer right after I moved. In fact, Geraldine, love her heart, didn't last long, and I never got to know her. Visited her a few times in the hospital, and her family was there, and I didn't get to know them either. Met them several times. After she died, one of her daughters called me to discuss funeral arrangements. Near the end of the conversation, I asked the daughter if there was anything the family needed. She said there wasn't. But about an hour or so later, she called back and said if I was serious about doing anything, there was something they needed. They could use a bag of ice. Something small, seemingly inconsequential, but something I could do and something I did. I'm sure you've been in the same situation. Somebody has needed something that seems small and inconsequential, but you are able to help and to serve and to do. In our text, Mark 14:3-9, there's a woman who does something that some people viewed as small, inconsequential, but it was big. She did what she could, Jesus said, when she came and poured oil on the Lord's head. And she teaches us that you do what you can do. You do what you can do. Mark 14, verse 3. While he was in Bethany, just outside of Jerusalem, it was Passover. Bethany was a place where many folks stayed for the Passover. And so Jesus was there in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the Leper. Obviously, this man's had leprosy at some time in the past, not currently, not when this was taking place, or Jesus could not have been in his home. It's very possible that Jesus had healed the man of leprosy, and that's why the man invites Jesus to come into his home and to eat. A woman. We know that's Mary from other texts of Martha and Lazarus, their sister. She came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. Nard was grown in India, plant native to India. So you can imagine how expensive it would be to get that plant from India and to make that perfume and to have it in Palestine. It's not going to be cheap. The Greek of the text says that it cost more than 300 denarii. That's more than a year's wage for an average worker. It was not cheap. Don't know how Mary came into contact with this and came to possess it. Could have been a family heirloom, but we don't know. But she had something that's quite expensive. And she broke the jar. No going back. No using some of the perfume for Jesus and some for herself or some for some other purpose. But she uses it all on Jesus, rendering every bit unusable. It's for that time. It's for Jesus. She poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly. We know that Judas, a thief, really wants that money, and he's the ringleader of the group. Jesus begins to answer them in verse 6. "Leave her alone," said Jesus. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing for me. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them any time you want. But you will not always have me." She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. And we're telling the story today in memory of Mary. And what she did. She did what she could. Jesus was there. She had this bottle of perfume, so she took the perfume and poured it on Jesus' head in a sign of thankfulness, worship, and obedience. You do what you can. She had the opportunity to serve. She served. How can you do what you can to serve? Well, first you have to see what you can do. You need to inventory your abilities. You inventory your abilities. This woman had a jar of perfume. She used it to serve Jesus. What do you have that you can use to serve Jesus and to serve others? Matthew 25:14, we're told in the parable of the talents that the landowner gave talents to his servants, to each according to their abilities. What abilities do you have to serve? What possessions do you have you can use to serve? How can you serve? And after you inventory your abilities, you inventory your situation. This woman has a jar of perfume. She's there at dinner. Jesus is there at the dinner. Perfect opportunity to serve. What opportunities do you have to serve? Paul says in Galatians 6:10 that as we have opportunity, let us do good to all men. What opportunities do you have? Where are you? Where are you? How can you serve? And after you see your abilities, after you see your situation, then you act. Mary didn't just look around and see that she had the perfume and see Jesus was there and she had the opportunity, but she acted. And if we want to serve, we can't just see, okay, I've got this ability, I've got this opportunity, and not do anything. You've got to act. Go act today. Go serve others today. Serve Jesus today. God bless.